Hey, what's up, friends? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf 37, Daf Lamed Zayin of Masechta Berachos. Today is easier than the last 2 days in some ways. It's still hard, but it's not going to drive you insane. But the challenge here is just there's a lot of foods that we have to figure out what exactly are these foods and categorize them and figure out why we're doing what we do. So there's that, but nothing super insane. So we're going to start on Daf Lamed Vav Amud Beis, about 2 lines before it even starts getting a little bit wide. We stopped a little bit early yesterday, A, because we were over an hour already, and B, because it was probably hurting everybody's heads, including mine. The thought of going further was sort of out of the question. So we're going to start 2 lines before it even starts getting wide by Pilpale, after the parentheses. Here we go, friends. Here we go. Pilpale, peppercorns, everybody's favorite. Rav Shesha Samar Shakol. So Rav Shesha says that if you eat peppercorns, so you say Shakol Nieh B'dvaro. Rava Amar Lo Klum. Rava says that you don't make any bracha whatsoever on peppercorns. I guess the implication being that it's not considered achila, it's not considered eating, and if it's not considered eating, then you don't make a bracha on it. Baz the Rava l'taime, and Rava goes according to his reasoning. The Amar Rava kas pilpule biyome de kipure potter. That if somebody eats peppercorns on Yom Kippur, he would be potter. He wouldn't be chayiv karis. It wouldn't be considered eating on Yom Kippur, because eating peppercorns is not considered eating. Kas zengavila biyome de kipure potter. And also, if you would munch on ginger on Yom Kippur, you would also be potter because it wouldn't be considered eating. Okay, fine. Now, just an important note, when it says kas pilpale, so there's an important Rashi here. It's important because it confuses me. Well, maybe let's say the other way around. It confuses me because it's important and has implications in other places that confuses me. Says Rashi, kas pilpale, kol davar sh'adam ochel shelo kedarko mikre ksisa. Anything that a person eats shelo kedarko, not in its normal manner, is called kesisa. So keep that in mind. So whenever we see koses and munching on something, it means munching on something not in its normal way. Okay. So anyway, so if you basically just eat peppercorns on Yom Kippur, so then you're gonna be potter because it's not actually considered achila at all. Okay, fine. Meisve, we have a kasha. Hayar Rabbi Meir Omer. Rabbi Meir would say, "Mimashma shenemar varalta marlaso espirio eni odea sheitz maicholu." No, so we have this pasuk in Sefer Vayikra, and the pasuk says, "V'chisavo el haaretz." When you get to Eretz Yisrael, nitatem kol eitz ma'achal, and you eat any food producing tree. Varalta marlaso espirio, right? And then you have to, its fruits are closed off for you for 3 years. Shaloshan v'yelechem arelim lo yachal. You can't eat it for 3 years. So the Gemara wants to ask the question from the fact that it says Varaltam or lasso es piryo, right? The fact that its fruits are going to be closed off to you, so doesn't that obviously mean that we're talking about an eitz ma'achal, a food-producing tree? So why did the pasuk need to say right before them, unitatem kol eitz ma'achal? You could just say unitatem kol eitz, and you plant any kind of tree. Why did it have to say dafka, a food-producing tree, if immediately afterwards it's talking about, its fruits are going to be off limits to you? Obviously, if its fruits are off limits to you, we're talking about a food tree. So matam loma eitz ma'achal. Why did I have to say that it's a food-producing tree? So the answer is lavi eitz shetam eitzo ufriyo shaveh. It's actually teaching us something new. It's saying that even to include in the halachos of orla a tree that if you would sort of munch on the wood itself, it would taste exactly like its fruit. Okay, ve'ezohu, and what is ve'ezohu? What is this tree that its wood tastes like its fruit? Zeh pilpulin. This is peppercorns. I never experimented on that, but it does come up a few places in the Gemara. So that is pilpulin, it's peppercorns. To teach us that peppercorns are chayav in orla. And additionally to teach you, she'ein Eretz Yisrael chasera klum, that Eretz Yisrael is not lacking anything. We even have peppercorns, friends. We even have peppercorns. Shneimar, as the pasuk says, Eretz asher lo b'miskenus, right, a land that you will not eat its bread in difficulty, it will not lack anything, it even has peppercorns. So I think the implication being that if it's chayiv in orla, and it's such an amazing thing that, Eretz Yisrael is praised that it has it, why would it be something that isn't even derech achila, that not even derech achila, it isn't even considered achila at all? Rava says that if you're going to eat it, you don't even make a bracha on it. So lokasha berativta habiyabeshta. So actually it depends. If it's moist or if it's dry. If it's moist, so then it's this amazing fruit that Eretz Yisrael is praised that it is capable of growing it. If it's dry, so then it's not considered, you'd maybe use it as an ingredient in food, but you wouldn't eat it, in and of itself. Okay, fine. And then it wouldn't be considered eating, and you wouldn't make a bracha on it according to Rava if it's dry. Amar le Rabbanan le the rabbi said to Meremar, Kas zangavila biyoma de kipure pater. So if somebody were to munch on ginger on Yom Kippur, it'd be pater. It wouldn't be considered eating. Ve'amar Rava, but didn't Rava say? Rava, the same Rava who says that you don't make a bracha right? Well, the same Rava who says that you wouldn't be chayav for munching on ginger on Yom Kippur, he says, Hai hamlasa, this ginger dish, the asim handoi, that is like Indian or something like that, sharia, it is taka permitted. You're permitted to eat it. And Rashi says, Einba lo mishum bishule nachrim v'lo mishum giule nachrim. You don't have to worry about the fact that somebody who's not Jewish prepared it, cooked it. No problem. You can eat it. And you say the bracha of Borei Pri Adama. So if it's this, dish that you can eat and say Borei Pri Adama, so then why wouldn't you be chayav for eating ginger on Yom Kippur? Lokasha berativta biyabeshta. Again, it depends. If the ginger is moist and fresh and in this, delicious sounding dish, so then yeah, it would be Borei Pri Adama. And if you ate that on Yom Kippur, you would be chayav like for eating anything else. But when it's dried out, so then you're not going to make a bracha on that. And it's not considered achila, you're not going to make a bracha on that. And that, if you eat on Yom Kippur, you're going to be pater. Chavitz kedera, v'chein daisa. So we're talking about different types of porridges over here, okay? So chavitz kedera is some kind of porridge made out of flour and oil and honey. And daisa is like a farina. I don't know, is that like an American thing, farina? But it's basically like, wheat that's like crushed up and you make it as a porridge, okay? So one of them is flour and one of them is just kind of like crushed up wheat. So Rav Yehuda Amar, Shakol Niyeh B'dvaro, Rav Kana Amar Brei Minei Mizonos. So on porridge, okay, Rav Yehuda says that you're going to say Shakol Niyeh B'dvaro on it, and Rav Kahana says that you're going to say Borei Minei Mizonot on it. We have to understand why. So B'daisa Grei the Kuliyamalo Plige de Borei Minei Mizonos. Okay, so everyone agrees that just on regular farina, okay, you're going to say Borei Minei Mizonos. So if you basically crush up wheat, make it into something that you can then boil with water as a porridge, and that's how you serve it, so you're going to say Borei Minei Mizonot. Ki plige, the machlokas between Rav Yehuda and Rav Kahana is b'daisa ke'ein chavitz kedera. When you prepare farina in the same manner that you prepare this chavitz kedera, this flour and honey and oil thing, right? So if you prepare farina with lots of honey, so Rav Yehuda Amar Shakol Savar Duvsha Ikar. So Rav Yehuda says you're going to say Shakol Niyeh B'dvaro because he says that in this farina, the honey is really the main event. The farina is secondary to the honey. You're really interested in consuming honey. Rav Kahana Amar Borei Minei Mizonot Savar Smida Ikar. Rav Kahana says that you can say Borei Minei Mizonot because the farina is the main ingredient and the honey is just there to make it sweeter, but the main thing is the farina. So this is super duper interesting, right? We're seeing here a machlokas between Rav Yehuda and Rav Kahana about Iker and Tafel, aside from the fact that it seems to be completely subjective. So right now I don't know what bracha to make on this farina. Rav Yehuda seems to say Shakol, Rav Kahana seems to say Mizonot, Rav Yehuda says the main thing is the honey, Rav Kahana says what are you talking about, the main thing is the farina. Kilu, it seems very subjective, and also we're seeing about Ikar and Tafel, that Kilu, you basically look at the dish and say, what is the main thing over here? What do I care about the most? And that's what I'm going to make the bracha on. Which is super interesting. And then it even gets even more interesting. Rav Yosef, Kavasid Rav Kahana Mistavra, that Rav Yosef says that it actually makes more sense like Rav Kahana to say Borei Minei Mizonot. How come? The Rav Shmuel Damar Tarvayu, Kol sheyesh bo mechameshes haminin mevarchin ala brei minei mezonos. Because Rav and Shmuel both say that kol sheyesh bo, anything that has in it from the chameshes haminim. What are the chameshes haminim? Wheat, barley, oat, spelt, and rye. Anything that has from these 5 grains, mevarchin alav brei minei mezonot. So you say the bracha brei minei mezonot, which is super duper interesting because it sounds like ikar and tafel goes away when you're talking about chameshes minei dagan, right? Meaning we had this porridge and we have machlokes in between Rav Yehuda and Rav Kahana about is this the ikar, is that the ikar? And Rav Yosef says, wait a second, people, wait a second. Ikar and tafel is irrelevant over here because we're talking about farina. And in this farina, and farina is wheat, and wheat is one of the 5 grains, forget it. Automatically, brei minei mezonot. Ikar and tafel goes away, which is super interesting. Super interesting, right? So like even if, I don't know, let's say you're having epis herring in a cracker or something, and you're using the cracker just to eat the herring, right? I don't know, I'm getting right now into probably a humongous machlokas, but I think it's interesting though, that you're using a cracker because you don't want to take the herring by your fingers, you're not that hamish, so really you just want the herring, but you don't want to hold it with your hands, so you find epis a cracker, and you put the herring on the cracker and you eat it like that. So you're gonna say mizonos on that. I don't care what your preference was. I don't care. Ikr tafel makes no difference. You had a cracker, mizonos. Unless maybe you're gonna say that that's not even a good example because maybe the cracker and the herring are separate. They're not in a mixture, whereas farina is a mixture. This is the complications of Masechta Berachos, of Ketzad Mevarchin. It's every single thing is its own thing, It's complicated. So I don't know. But it sounds like wherever we would say Kol sheyesh bo chameshes minei dagan, Ikar and Tafel becomes irrelevant. Okay? Fine. Very interesting. Weiter. Gufa. Rav Shmuel Damar Tavayu. So we said before that Rav and Shmuel say Kol sheyesh bo mechameshes haminin mevarchin alav brei minei mezonos. Okay? That whenever you have sort of some kind of mixture that has in it from the 5 types of grains, so then you automatically say brei minei mezonot. No matter what else there might be, no matter ikar, tafel, everything goes away. You say brei minei mezonot. Okay. V'idmar, we have another statement by Rav and Shmuel. Rav Shmuel Damar Tavayu kol shehu mechameshes haminin mevarchin alav brei minei mezonos. Anything that it is the chameshes minei dagan, meaning we're not talking about a mixture now. We're talking about a cracker, right? You have a cracker made out of wheat flour or something like that. So then you're going to say brei minei mezonot. Okay, fine. Utzricha, and we need both statements of Rav and Shmuel. We need to know that when you have a mixture that contains mizonot, you say brei minei mezonot, and we need to know that when you have something of the chameshes minei dagan alone, you say brei minei mezonot. How come? So if we only say that something that is entirely made up of chameshes minei dagan, you say brei minei mezonot. So hava amina mishum de'isei be'enei aval ali detaro v'slo. So I might think that is, I would only say brei minei mezonot on that, something that's composed completely of the 5 grains, because it's standing alone. It is there by itself, and therefore you would say brei minei mezonot on it. But if it was in a mixture, such as in daisa, right, such as in farina, where you have this farina, this grain, but at the same time you also have honey, so maybe then you wouldn't automatically say brei minei mezonot. Maybe it would be like Rav Yehuda, that if you prefer the honey, then that would be the ikar, and you would say shakol, right? So kamash malan kol sheyesh bo. So that is why Rav and Shmuel had to tell us no. Anything that has in it the chameshes minei dagan, you say brei minei mezonot. Okay, fine. And v'yashmin and kol sheyesh bo. And if they would tell us that any mixture that has the 5 minei dagan in it, such as farina, so hava amina kol sheyesh bo chameshes haminin in. So any mixture that has in it the chameshes minei dagan, such as farina, so that is where you automatically say brei minei mezonot. Aval orez v'dochen, but what about, let's say you have some kind of rice-based porridge, a porridge made out of, ground up rice, and you have rice and you have honey in there, so that would be excluded, and you wouldn't necessarily make the bracha on the rice. Aval orez v'dochen lo mishum da'ayidei ta'aroves, because it's in the ta'aroves, right? So basically, if you have a farina made out of wheat, so then you would automatically say brei minei mizonot. But if that same farina wasn't wheat based, it was rice based, so then you wouldn't automatically say the bracha on rice. However, aval ise be'ene, however, that's only because the rice is part of that mixture that you're not automatically going to make the bracha of the rice. But if you were only eating rice plain, what if you just ate rice? Nema afilu orez v'dochen nami mivarchen alav brei minei mizonos. So I would think that if I just sort of cooked rice, I would say borei minei mizonot on that, right? Because only in a mixture, Rav and Shmuel are saying that you wouldn't necessarily say brei minei mizonot on it. But if it was not in a mixture, then maybe you would say brei minei mizonot. Kamash malan kol shu mechamesh saminim hu timivarchen alav brei minei mizonos lafuke orez v'dochan tafilu isi be'ene lo mivarchinan brei minei mizonos. So therefore, Rav and Shmuel had to tell us that only something that it is itself, the chameshes hamine dagan, that is where you say brei minei mizonot. So if you have a cracker made out of wheat, you would say brei minei mizonot. But if you're eating rice, you wouldn't say brei minei mizonot because it's not one of the chameshes minei dagan. So now you're probably thinking that, but on rice we do after all say brei minei mizonot. Yeah, you're right. Also, the question is, of course, is orez even rice? Which is a whole other interesting thing. Like, we, of course, in modern Hebrew called orez rice, but Rashi actually says that orez isn't rice. Tosfos says that orez is rice. So I'm going to assume right now, so just to make things easier and to make them practical, I'm going to be defining orez as rice because that's, I think, how we learn it practically speaking. That all these foods, they're not exactly clear what they are, Fine, beseder. So now the Gemara says, okay, so basically we just proved that, rice, essentially, according to Rav and Shmuel, you would not say brei minei mizonot on rice. But we don't make brei minei mizonot on orez and dochan. Dochan is millet, right? So on rice and millet, we don't say brei minei mizonot. So Rashi actually explains orez as millet and dochan as something else. But Tosfos says that orez is rice and dochan is millet. So we're going to go with that. But we learn in a brayso, eviu lefanav pas orez ufas dochan. If they brought in front of him bread made out of rice flour, ufas dochan, or bread made out of millet flour, mevarich alav tchila v'sof kimaisei kedera. So what bracha do you make on it? So you make the bracha of a maisei kedera. And a maisei kedera is basically, I don't know, in my mind it's like an oatmeal or something like that. Some kind of 5 grains made in a pot. So we got by maisei kedera Tanya, and by maisei kedera it says, Betchilim mevarich alav brei minei mizonos, u'v'sof mevarich alav bracha achas mein shalosh. And by maisei kedera, by oatmeal, it says that you would say brei minei mizonot at the beginning, and then say ala michya afterwards. So if we're saying that a bread made out of rice flour or millet flour, you're going to say the same brachas as oatmeal, as maisei kedera, well then that sounds like on this rice or millet bread, you would be saying brei minei mizonot. So why did we just say that you only say brei minei mizonot on the 5 grains? So the Gemara answers, K'maisei kedera v'lo k'maisei kedera. It's like a maisei kedera, and it's also not like a maisei kedera, okay? So, k'maisei kedera, the mevarchen alav tchila v'sof. So it's like a maisei kedera in that you make a bracha on it, okay? V'lo k'maisei kedera, but at the same time it's also not like a maisei kedera. Dilu b'maisei kedera b'tchila brei minei mizonos, u'v'sof bracha achas mein shalosh, It's also not like a Maaseh Kedera, because whereas by Maaseh Kedera you would say a Borei Minei Mizonos on it, and afterwards you would say Ala Michya. By this rice or millet-based bread, you would say Shakol Niya B'Dvaro on it, and afterwards you would say Borei Nefashot Rabot V'Chesronan. Which is a funny answer. Like, why are we saying that this rice bread is like Maaseh Kedera and that you make a bracha on it? You make a bracha on everything. But anyways, fine. The Orev Lav Maaseh Kederu. But 1 second. So we're not, Orez wouldn't be considered a Maaseh Kedera, and you would make whatever bracha you would make on Maaseh Kedera, you would make on Orez. Ve'atanya. We learn in a brisa. Elu ein Maaseh Kedera. The following things are considered Maaseh Kedera. Chilka. If you take wheat and you divide it, you split it into two. Targis is if you take wheat and divide it into 3 pieces. Skip the next word. Zariz is if you take wheat and divide it into 4 pieces. Ve'arsan is if you take a wheat kernel and you divide it into 5 pieces. Ve'orez, and also rice. So we see that rice is considered a Maaseh Kedera, and it sounds like then you would say a mizonos on it and an ala michya. Okay? The Gemara says no. Don't bring a proof from there, because Hamani, Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, no, that brisa that says that rice is considered a Maaseh Kedera, which would mean that you say Borei Minei Mizonos and Ala Michya, that's specifically Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. The Tanya, as we learn in a brisa, Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri Omer, Orez min daganu v'chayavan al chamutzo kares v'adam yotzei bo yidei chovasu b'Pesach. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri says that rice is actually one of the types of grains. So I don't know if that means that it knocks out one of the other 5, or if there are 6 types of grains according to Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. But either way, rice is a grain just like wheat is a grain. And if you have chametz of rice on Pesach, you're going to be chayav kares. If you make matzah out of rice dough, you would be yotzei your chayav of eating matzah. So, of course, Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri is going to consider rice to be a Maaseh Kedera, and say that you make a mizonos before and a ala michya afterwards. Okay. Avar Rabbanan lo, but the Rabbanan argue, and they say that rice is not one of the chameshes minei dagan, and therefore on some kind of cooked dish made out of rice, you would say shakol niya b'dvaro. Okay, and afterwards brain nefashos. V'Rabbanan lo, the Rabbanan don't say that you would make a borei minei mizonot on rice. Ve'atanya, but we learn in a brisa. Hakoses esachita, somebody who munches on wheat. Now, as I pointed out earlier, that there was that Rashi about koses, that every single time that you eat something not in its normal way, it's called kesisa. So this is why it confused me, because we're saying that a koses esachita muvarach alea borei pri adama. If you just munch on wheat, you say borei pri adama. But if koses means that you're doing it not in its normal way, then why are you saying borei pri adama? If it's not the normal way to consume wheat, shouldn't that be shakol niya b'dvaro? Because after all, we said yesterday that somebody who eats raw gourd, you don't say borei pri adama, even though it came from the ground, you would say shakol niya b'dvaro. Isn't that because you're not eating it in its normal way? So if we're not eating wheat in its normal way, why are we saying borei pri adama? The answer is, I don't know. But hopefully later on in the parak, I don't know, maybe as we learn the parak more, we'll get more answers. Maybe at the beginning we're going to have more questions, and then maybe as time goes on, hopefully we'll get more answers. But honestly, I'm not totally confident in that, but I guess we'll find out. Okay. So if you basically just munch on raw wheat, so you would say borei pri adama. Tachana, afa'a, uvishla, if you then ground it up, you baked it, and then you boiled it. So it sounds like you made some kind of like a bagel kind of thing. Okay? So bizmancha prusot kayamot, betchila mevarich alea amotzi lechem na'aretz. So as long as the pieces are still there, meaning you baked it into bread, you then boiled it, as long as during the boiling process it didn't affect the pieces of bread, so the bread is still sort of has its shape. So Muvarech alea amotzi lechem min haaretz. So you're gonna say Hamotzi lechem min haaretz on that bread. Ulevasof mevarech alea gimel brachot. Then afterwards you will say Birkat Hamazon. Im ena prusot kayamot. But if while you boiled it, the bread kind of dissolved, and it's no longer, it has the shape of bread, so b'tchila mevarech alea borei minei mezonot, ulevasof mevarech alea bracha achat mein shalosh. So then you would, if the bread dissolved during the boiling process, so then you would say borei minei mezonot as the bracha rishona, and you would say ala michya as the bracha acharona. Hakoses es haorez, somebody who munches on rice, mivarech alav borei pri adama. So then you would bless borei pri adama on that. Tachano afao uvishlo. If you then were to grind it up and bake it and boil it, af al pi shapusot kayamot, even though the pieces of this rice bread are, stayed intact, right, kept their structural integrity. So you're going to say borei minei mizonot before consuming this rice bread, boiled, baked product. And afterwards, you're going to say ala michya. So what do we see? So we see that at least in this brisa, we're saying that you say borei minei mizonot on this rice bread product. Ilem Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. Now, money. So now, who's the author of this brisa? Ilem Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. If we say that the author of this brisa is Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, well, right, to Amar Orez min Daganhu, who says that Orez is an actual type of grain, just as much as wheat is a type of grain. Well, then Hamotzi lechem min haaretz v'shalosh brachos by bruche. Well, then you should be making, it should be treated exactly the same way as wheat is, and therefore, if the bread kept its structural integrity even after it was boiled, then you should be making hamotzi lechem min haaretz on this rice bread and birkat hamazon afterwards. So elalav rabbanon hi. Rather, if it's not Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, then it must be the rabbanon, and the rabbanon are saying that on this rice bread you are saying a borei minei mizonot on it, right? So we see that according to Rabbanan, you would say borei minei mizonot on rice. Okay? Utiyufta d'Rav u'Shmuel tiyufta, and it's a kasha on Rav u'Shmuel, because Rav and Shmuel say that you would only say borei minei mizonot on the 5 types of grain. Yet we seem to have a brisa that says that you would be saying borei minei mizonot on this rice bread. Okay? Very good. Very, very good. Omar Mai, we said earlier, Hakoses is achita, somebody who munches on raw wheat, Mavarich alea borei pri adama, so you say the bracha of borei pri adama on it. Ve'atanya, but we learn in a brisa, borei minei zra'im, we have a brisa that says that the bracha that you would make on it is a different bracha. You would say borei minei zra'im. You wouldn't say borei pri adama. So the Gemara says, Lokash, that's no problem. HaRabbi Yehuda v'Rabbanan. Rabbi Yehuda says you would say borei minei zra'im, and the Rabbanan would say that you would say borei pri adama. Ditnan, as we learned in our Mishnah on 2 days ago at the beginning of the parak, Berachos omer borei pri adama, Rabbi Yehuda omer borei minei dishaim. That the Rabbanan, the Tanakama says that on vegetables you would say borei pri adama. Rabbi Yehuda says that you would say borei minei dishaim because he likes to be more specific. So on vegetables you would say borei minei dishaim, and on things like wheat you would say borei minei zra'im. The Chacham just say borei pri adama on everything. Okay, fine. By the way, I don't know if I ever said this. The Tanakama, of course, is just a generic name for the first Tana of the Mishnah. So, for example, in our Mishnah, right, we were saying, we anonymously said that, on fruits of the Peros Haaretz, you say Borei Pri Ha'etz, and then Peros Adam, you say Borei Pri Adama. It doesn't say who said it. So that's typically just referred to as the Tanakama, the first Tana. We also say that, as Yisrael once mentioned in the WhatsApp group, that Stam Mishnah is Rabbi Meir. So, you can kind of assume that the Mishnah is Rabbi Meir if there's no name there, but that gets a little bit confusing, because when do you assume that it's the Rabbanan? When do you assume that it's Rabbi Meir? Anyways, let's move on. So, Amar Mar, we said earlier, Hakoses is ha'orez, mevarich alav borei pri ha'adama. If you just kind of munch on rice, so then you would make the bracha of Borei Pri Adama. Tachano afa'o uvishlo. If you then ground it up, baked it, boiled it, afalpisha prusot kayamot, betchila mevarich alav Borei Minei Mizonot, uvesof bracha achat mein shalosh. So then you're gonna, even when the pieces retains its structural integrity through boiling, you would still make a mizonot before consuming this rice bread and a alamichya afterwards. Okay. But one second, we have a brisa that says that when you would consume this rice bread, you would just say a borei nefashot afterwards. You wouldn't say a bracha achat mein shalosh, which is an alamichya. So Rav Sheshes lo kasha, Rav Gamliel v'Rabbanan. Rav Sheshes says no problem, right? The brisa that says that you would say borei minei mizonot and also a alamichya on rice, that's Rav Gamliel. The brisa which says that you're going to say borei minei mizonot and borei nefashot afterwards on rice, that is the chachamim. The Tanya, as we learn in a brisa, zeh klal. This is the rule. Kol shu mishiva saminim. If you have anything from the 7 species of Israel, right, that is wheat, barley, grapes, figs, pomegranates, olives, and dates. So Rabbi Gamliel Omer Shalosh Brachot. Rabbi Gamliel says you have to bench on that. You have to say you have to say Birkat Hamazon. If you eat a date, so you have to say Birkat Hamazon afterwards, according to Rabbi Gamliel. Whereas the Chachamim say no. If you eat a date, so you just say an ala eitz v'alpriya eitz afterwards, right? Not a you wouldn't have to bench the entire benching. There's a story with Rabbi Gamliel and the elders that they were eating in some loft in Jericho. And they brought in front of them dates, all very fancy. And they ate the dates. And Rabbi Gamliel said to Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Akiva, so why don't you lead us in the after blessing? Kafatzu verech Rabbi Akiva bracha achas me'en shalosh. So Rabbi Akiva said, okay, cool, and he then proceeded to say the bracha of ala eitz ve'al priya eitz. Daring, bold move in front of Rabbi Gamliel, right? Remember what happened when Rabbi Yoshua dared go against Rabbi Gamliel? Rabbi Gamliel, what he did to Rabbi Yoshua made him stand up, that whole story, which ended up to his deposal. Anyways, I don't know if that's a word, but Rabbi Akiva was in front of Rabbi Gamliel, and Rabbi Gamliel's opinion, of course, is that you would say Birkat Hamazon after a date. Rabbi Akiva just said, oh yeah, cool, no problem, and he says, Ala eitz v'al priya eitz. Amar Rabbi Gamliel, Akiva, no, Rabbi Akiva, why are you being such a nudnik? How come you have to get into the machlokes? Obviously you know that my opinion is that we should say Birkat Hamazon, and of course you go and you say Ala eitz v'al priya eitz. Amalei Rabbeinu said, look, our teacher, so he says, look, you say that you should say Birkat Hamazon, but everybody else, all your friends, say that you should say Ala eitz v'al priya eitz. Limadteinu Rabbeinu, and you've taught us Yachid v'Rab Malacha Kirab, that you can read this a little bit differently, maybe. Even though you say like this, your friends say something else, but nonetheless, you taught us that when you have a single opinion versus a majority opinion, you have to go based on the majority opinion, and therefore I'm doing like the majority opinion and saying bracha achat mein shalosh on this date, and I'm saying ala eitz v'al priya eitz. Okay, fine. Now Rabbi Yehuda Omer Mishmo. Rabbi Yehuda says in the name of Rabbi Gamliel, Kol shu mishiva saminim v'lo min dagan, o min dagan v'lo asao pas, or so anything that is from the 7 species of Israel that Israel is praised by them, and it isn't a grain, i.e., any of the 5 that aren't wheat or barley. So we're talking about figs, grapes, pomegranates, olives, and dates, or any of the 5 minei dagan, right? Wheat, barley, spelt, oat, and rye, but you didn't make them into bread, so maybe it's a cracker or something. Rabbi Gamliel Omer Shalosh Brachos v'Chacham Omer Bracha Achas Mein Shalosh. So Rabbi Gamliel says that you would say Birkat Hamazon on that afterwards, whether the Chachamim say, which is what we do, we would just say a bracha achat mein shalosh. If it's a fruit, you would say ala eitz v'apriya eitz. If it was a grain, you would say ala michya v'kakala. And of course, if it was wine, you would say ala gefen v'apriya gefen. Fine. Now, kol she'eno lo mishivas aminim v'lo min dagan. So now anything that is not one of the 7 species that Israel is praised by, or is not one of the 5 types of grains, kigon pas ores v'dochan, such as bread made out of rice or millet flour. Rabban Gamliel omer bracha achas mein shalosh. Rabban Gamliel says that you would say an ala michya on it, whereas v'chacham omrim v'lo klum, and the chacham would say that you'd say brei nefashos on it, and of course that is how we paskin that on rice you say brei minei mezonot beforehand and brei nefashos afterwards. So b'mayu kimta, new. So getting back to our brisa, where we said that if you took rice flour and you ground it up, you took rice flour and then you baked it and you boiled it, and then it kept its structural integrity, you would say mizonot and afterwards ala michya. No, so who's that like? Who says that you say mizonot and ala michya afterwards for rice? So Rabban Gamliel. So it sounds like it's Rabban Gamliel, because the Rabbanan would say you say brei nefashot on it. Yeah, but ema seifa dereisha. Okay. But question: what about the first part of that brisa, where we were talking about wheat flour, right? We said that if you took wheat flour and you baked it and you boiled it, so it said that if it kept its structural integrity, you would say hamutz lech min aretz, and then you would say birkat hamazon afterwards. But then what did it say in the next part, right? The seifa of the reisha, the last part of the first part of that brisa, which is that if it didn't keep its structural integrity, if it disintegrated, if it dissolved while you boiled it, you would say brei minei mizonot and ala michya. Well, that clearly isn't Rabban Gamliel, right? Right? Ema seifa dereishem ena prusot kayamot betchilim varich alea brei minei mizonot v'sof varich alea bracha achas mein shalosh mani. Rabban Gamliel hashta akosvos ve'adaisa amar Rabban Gamliel gimel brachos im ena prusos kayamos mibaya. If on a date or on farina, Rabban Gamliel would say that you would say brei minei mizonot and then you would say birkat hamazon afterwards. Well, then certainly this flour, which you made, this wheat flour, which you made into bread, and then you boiled it, and then it dissolved, but it was at one point bread, right? A date was never bread, right? Farina was never bread. This was mamish bread, and then it dissolved, and you're saying a brei minei mizonot on it beforehand. Certainly, Rabban Gamliel is going to say that you're going to have to say birkat hamazon on it afterwards, but this brisa says that you just say ala michya afterwards. So that part at least can't be Rabban Gamliel. So what's the deal? In the first part, it sounds like it's the Rabbanan, because you're saying that mizonot before this dissolved wheat bread and ala michya afterwards, which is the Rabbanan's opinion. But in the second part, we're saying that on the rice, you would say brei minei mizonot, and afterwards you would say ala michya, which sounds like it's Rabban Gamliel's opinion. So what's the deal? So the pshita de Rabbanan. Pshita Rabbanan. No, so rather this brisa is the Rabbanan. Okay, so what do you do with the rice thing, with the ala michya afterwards? So yahachi kasha d'Rabbanan. Well, what's the deal with the Rabbanan who say in one place that after rice you say brei nefashos, and then in this brisa apparently they're saying that afterwards you say ala michya. So l'olam Rabbanan v'tani gabe utni gabe orez levasof enam varich alav lo klum. Okay, so say that the brisa is the Rabbanan, but just amend the brisa a little bit to say that they say that when you have this rice flour that you make into a bread and then you boil it and the structural integrity remains, and you say ala michya, you say brei minei mizonot on it, so then just change what you would say for the after bracha, change it from ala michya to brei nefashos, and then of course it makes sense. It does make sense, but you also just change the words of the brisa. But okay, the Gemara doesn't seem to have a problem with that, so then neither do we. We're moving on. Amar Rava, said Rava, Hayriata dechakloi. Oh, so riata is this chavetz. Rashi says it's this chavetz kadera that we were talking about at the beginning of the day. It's basically some kind of porridge made out of flour and oil and honey. So this porridge, dechakloi. So the way that the farmers make it, demafshebe kimcha, that they put lots of flour in it. Well, mevarich brei minei mizonos. So then you're going to say brei minei mezonot. My time. How come? The smida ikar, because the flour is the main ingredient, the main event over there. So you say brei minei mezonot. The machoza, but the way that they make porridge in machoza, which is the city that Rava was from, the lo mafshi bekimcha, that they don't put in so much flour into their porridge. So mavarich alav shakon yebedvaro. Then you say shakon yebedvaro. My time. Aduv sheikar, because in machoza the main part of this porridge is really the honey. Sounds basically very similar to the machlokas that we started with between Rav Yehuda and Rav Kahana at the beginning of the day. Father Amar Rava, idi v'idi brei minei mezonos, that both, whether there's a lot of flour or a lot of honey, doesn't matter. They're both going to be brei minei mezonot. Rav Shmuel d'Amar Tarvayu, kol sheyesh bo mechamesh aminim mevarchol brei minei mezonos. Because Rav and Shmuel say that any mixture that has in it from the 5 types of grain, so then you automatically make brei minei mezonot, ikar and tafel falls away. Okay, fine, very good. Amar Rav Yosef, says Rav Yosef, Hai chavitza, deisbei pirun kazayis, batchilim mevarich olav v'motzi lechem min haaretz, ulevasof mevarich olav shalosh brachos, deleisbei pirun kazayis, batchilim mevarich olav brei minei mezonos, ulevasof bracha achas mein shalosh. Okay. So the way I'm understanding these chavitza, I'm understanding them as like croutons, right? Right. You basically take bread and you like cut it up into pieces. You like maybe like fry it a little bit or something like that, and then you chuck it in to, let's say, a salad or a soup or something like that. Okay. So Rav Yosef says, so it depends. If these crouton things have any pieces there that are the size of an olive or bigger, so then you would say amotzi lechem min haaretz. But if all of the pieces are less than the size of an olive, so then you would say brei minei mezonot, and you would only say ala michya afterwards, right? If they have a kazayis, you would say amotzi lechem min haaretz, and you would say birkat hamazon afterwards. If they're less than an olive size, so then you would say brei minei mezonot beforehand, and you would say ala michya afterwards. Okay. Amar Rav Yosef mina minala. Then Rav Yosef says, okay, and let me explain to you my rationale. The Tanya, as we learn in a brisa, so if a guy goes to offer a flour offering in Jerusalem, so Omer Baruch Shechianu v'Gianu Lizman Hazeh. Okay, very good. So he goes with his flour. He gives the flour to the Kohen. Then this guy makes the bracha of Shechianu. Okay, it's a very exciting thing, right? That bracha is reserved for like special occasions. Zeu. Now netalan le'ochlan. Now the Kohen, so the Kohen eats the flour offering. So now the Kohen took the flour offering and he's now going to eat it. So mevarech amotzi lechem min haaretz. So what bracha does he make on the flour offering? So he says the bracha of amotzi lechem min haaretz. Now an important thing about menachot. So a mincha is a flour offering, and as we just learned, the Kohen eats the flour offering. Now flour offerings are baked. You basically mix the flour with like oil, then you like bake it. There's like different kinds of flour offerings. But anyways, after you bake it, you then break up the baked like bread, cracker kind of thing. And then then what you do is you take what's called a kometz. A kometz is a certain kind of a fistful, right? You take your 3 middle fingers. And if you're looking at the video, I could show you, but otherwise I'll describe it. Basically, you take your 3 middle fingers and you like get as much grain, as much of this flour or these broken up bread into your, in between these 3 fingers and your palm, and you take that and you throw it on the mizbeach. That goes to God, and then the rest the Kohen can eat. Okay. So V'tani Allah, and we taught about it. V'chulan posesan kazayis, and after the flour offering is baked and you break it up before taking the fistful and putting it on the mizbeach, so you break it up into pieces that are an olive's size. So Rav Yosef wants to learn from there that the reason why the Kohen is saying the bracha of amotzi lechem min haaretz is because the size of these flour pieces, of these little like cracker pieces, are a kazayas. But if they were less than a kazayas, then he wouldn't say amotzi lechem min haaretz. Now, the minchas in general in the Beis HaMikdash were like more like matzahs, right? They were like, there was no chametz. There were only a few exceptions where there was chametz in the base with korbanos, right? One of them is the shtei alechem that they would offer on Shavuos, that was made of bread, that was chametz. Another example is when you bring a korban toda, you bring 4 types of breads, one of those were chametz. But anyways, in general, a mincha was not chametz, and you would break it, this like matzah kind of thing up. And we're saying, Rabbi Yosef wants to say that he would break them into pieces that are a kazayas, and therefore he would make a motzi lechem in aretz. But if the pieces were less than a kazayas, he wouldn't say a motzi lechem in aretz, and therefore this like crouton kind of thing that he's breaking up into pieces smaller than smaller than a kazayas, you would say only brei minei mezonot, not hamotzi lechem in aretz. Okay. But then Abai asks Rav Yosef, Amalei Abaye, Elameata, the Tana Dever Rabbi Yishmael. What about according to Tana Dever Rabbi Yishmael? De Amar Porchan ad shemachziron l'sultan, that he says that you actually break up this baked flour offering not into sizes of a kazayas. According to Rabbi Yishmael, you break it up back into flour. So hachinami to lobai buche hamutzilechem min haaretz. So are you saying that Tana Dever Rabbi Yishmael, that Rabbi Yishmael basically is saying not only does he argue about the fact that you don't break it up into pieces the size of a kazayas, right? He says that you break it up into flour, but he's also arguing on the fact, according to you, Rav Yosef, that you're also not going to say amotzi lechem min haaretz on it anymore. According to you, Rav Yosef, he would have to say brei minei mezonot on this flour because it's less than the size of a kazayas. And Rav Yosef, if you're going to say, yeah, that's exactly correct, that Rabbi Shmuel argues, and he says that you break up this mincha after it's been baked, you break it up into flour, break it up finely into flour, and then you take the fistful, put it on the mizbeach, and then the rest of it he eats, and he says a brei minei mezonot. Ve'atanya, but we learn in a brisa, lakat mikulan kizayis ve'ochlan, if he, gathered up a kizayis worth of these crumbs, and he ate them, im chametzu anush kares, if it's chametz, he'd be chayiv kares. Now, I don't know if this is talking about if it's Pesach, and it's chametz, then he'd be chayiv kares, or if it's talking about just in the Beis HaMikdash, since these like offerings are generally matzah and not chametz. I'm not exactly sure. Ve'imatzahu adam yotzei bo yidei chavasu bePesach, and if it's matzah, so then you could be yotzei your chiyuv of eating matzah on Pesach, right? So we're saying that according to Rabbi Yishmael, he breaks them up into this little tiny flour stuff, and then if you were to gather together a kazayis worth, you could be yotzei your chiyuv of eating matzah on Pesach with that. Now, matzah on Pesach needs to be bread. It has to be lechem oni, and you have to be able to therefore say amotzi lechem in aretz on it. And therefore, if you could be yotzei eating matzah with these crumbs, well then obviously you're going to be saying amotzi lechem in aretz. Sorry, Rav Yosef. So Rav Yosef responds, no, not sorry. Hachab ma'eskinan kishe ersan. Rav Yosef says the reason why, bisha ersan, I don't know if I said kishe ersan, but Rav Yosef says the reason why he could be yotzei eating matzah on Pesach is because he then took these crumbs, made them back into a dough, and then rebaked them, and that's why he can say amotzi lechem in aretz and use it as matzah, because it actually now is a kazayah size. But if it remained just those crumbs, Rav Yosef says it would be brei minei mezonot. Ihachi, if so, well then ema seifa. Abaye is not giving in. He says, yeah, but what about at the end of that brisa, vusha achlan b'chdei achilas pras, that he's only yotzei eating matzah if he ate them within k'dei achilas pras. K'dei achilas pras means the amount of time that it takes to eat half of a loaf of bread that is a size of 8 eggs worth. Okay, so basically the amount of time that it takes to eat 4 eggs worth of bread. So you have, I don't know exactly how much time that is, but you have to eat the kazayis of matzah within that amount of time. That's what is considered achila. But now the Gemara says v'i b'she'er right, and v'i b'she'er and Rav Yosef, if it's talking about where he had taken those crumbs and made them back into a dough and baked them, and that's why he was yotzei is matzah, and he was saying amotzi lechem and aretz on it. But then hai kisha ochlan kisha ochlomi ba'ilei. But then it shouldn't say that is right. He's only yotzei for eating matzah if he ate them within kedei achilas pras. Well, what's them? He had already taken all the crumbs and made it back into a dough and made it into one single matzah. So it should be b'she ochlo b'toch kedei achilas pras, when he eats it within the amount of time that it takes to eat this half loaf of bread. So it must be that it actually remained as crumbs, and still we're saying that you could be yotzei eating matzah with it, which means that you're going to be saying a motzi on the crumbs. So Rav Yosef also doesn't give in. He says, no, this is talking about, the way I understand this, it means that this is talking about where what he did was he baked the mincha offering, he took it out of the oven, and then he didn't break up the entire thing. According to Rabbi Shmuel, he didn't break up the entire baked mincha into fine flour. He just, broke up enough that he could take a fistful and throw it on the mizbeach, but there was still, part of the bread, a part of this baked mincha was intact. And therefore, because part of it is still intact, and you can see that clearly these crumbs came from this matzah, from this like bread kind of thing, so that is why you would say amotzi lechem min haaretz even on these crumbs, because you see that it came from a larger bread. However, if the entire thing, says Rav Yosef, would have been broken down into these crumbs, then you would not say amotzi lechem min haaretz, you would only say brei minei mizonot. And that's why he says that when you take bread and you kind of cut it up into these pieces smaller than an olive, and you kind of make them into these croutons, and you serve them like soup or salad or something like that, as long as they're less than the size of a kazayas, you would say brei minei mizonot on them. However, if you could see that, if you just cut off like a piece of bread from a loaf of bread, and you cut up that and put it into a, and kind of made those into croutons, then you would say amotzi lechem min haaretz, even if they're less than a kazayis. That is Rav Yosef's opinion. Okay. My havela, nu, how do we paskin? What do we say lemaisa? Rav Sheshes, says Rav Sheshes, hi chavitza af al gav delezbei purin kazayis mevarich alav amotzi lechem min haaretz. Rav Sheshes says, look, these croutons, even if they're less than the size of a kazayis, you still say amotzi lechem min haaretz. Amarava hu deika alea turisa denahama. But that's only if it looks like bread, right? Meaning, if you look at these croutons and say, oh yeah, that's basically cut up bread, so then you would say amotzi lechem min haaretz. But if you look at these croutons, I guess, and say like, wait, I don't know, that doesn't necessarily look like bread. It looks like a crouton. I don't know, it doesn't. I guess if you just take bread and cut it up into small pieces, it just looks like small pieces of bread. But if you kind of like cook it and maybe add spices or something like that, it doesn't look like bread anymore. So then maybe it wouldn't be hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Maybe then it would be brei minei mizonot. Okay. I'm definitely not telling you what to do over here, but let's just say it's something to think about. Cool. Troknin, okay? When it comes to troknin, chayavin b'chala, okay? Troknin, whatever troknin is, which we'll define in a minute, you have to separate challah from it, okay? Which I guess the important thing being that if you have to separate challah, then I guess it's a real dough. And if it's a real dough, then it could potentially be hamotzi lechem min haaretz, okay? When Ravin came, he said the name of Yochanan that troknin, you don't take challah, you don't have to separate the challah tithe from the dough, which is basically what you do when you make bread. When you take wheat or whatever and you make it into a dough, and you're going to make that dough into bread, so you have to take off part of it and give it to a Kohen. But apparently by troknin, you don't have to do that, which I guess means that it's not going to be a bread. My troknin, what is troknin? Amar Abaye kova da'ara. Abaye says, I don't know, it's some kind of like, you like have some kind of heat source inside the ground, and then you put like water and flour in it, and you mix it together inside the ground, and you make some kind of, bread, pastry, something like that. Okay, fine. V'amar Abaye, says Abaye, trisa p'tura min challah. That trisa is p'tura from challah. My trisa, what's trisa? So ika da'amre gvil mirtach. So those who say it's gvil mirtach, I think that's kind of like a pancake or a crepe or something. Apparently you make some kind of batter, you pour it on some kind of heat source. It sounds to me some kind of pancake or crepe. Vika da'amre nama dahandika. There are those who say that it's some kind of bread that you cook on like a skewer and you keep on adding like oil and egg and stuff. It sounds to me almost like some kind of like a jachnun or a malawach, like some kind of like dough kind of thing. Those who say it's some kind of like sourdough that you like leave out in the sun and then you add it to some kind of like dip or something like that. Tani Devei Rabbi Chia, they talk about the base message of Rabbi Chia, lechem also the kutach patur min achala. They say that lechem that is made for this bread that you leave out in the sun, so it's patur from challah, vatani chayiv b'challah. But 1 second, we have a brisa that says that you actually have to take challah from this lechem also the kutach. Hasam kitikatani taima, but we actually have a reasoning over there. Rabbi Yehuda Omer Maaseh Mochichan Aleh. Rabbi Yehuda says it depends how you make it. Asan K'avin Chayavin Kilmudin B'turin. If you make the dough for this kutach like very nice and mechubad, and you make it like long and presentable, so then it would clearly made as some kind of like a bread. So then you're gonna say you're gonna separate challah from it. But if it's just made like kind of haphazardly that you're just throwing into this kind of dip anyways, well then it's not going to be considered bread, and you don't separate challah from it. Cool, everyone. All right, I think we did okay today. Probably have a bunch of questions. Of course, any questions, insights, there's already stuff that's touching on our lives, stuff that, we could think about. I'm sure many people have different opinions. We'd love to hear them. And peace out, y'all.